Right. Well, welcome to our next whole body migraine assessment call. I'm Dr. Tanya Paynter, and I am a naturopathic doctor and a migraine specialist. And these calls, if you're not familiar with them, are very much me just going over cases of people who have submitted to have their situation reviewed to give them a little bit better idea of what might be going on for their migraines. So today we are going to be talking about Hillary. So Hillary had her headaches start when she was 10 years old, and they have flared to migraines about 14 to 20 times a month, but she has a headache all day, every day. She usually wakes with them if they get worse. Sleep helps. She has a lot of seasonal allergy type, allergy symptoms, has a lot of IBS type symptoms, and has a personal and family history of depression and anxiety, some issues with alcohol. And I think that kind of covers the information that she provided. So let's talk a little bit about what these symptoms mean. So first, let's kind of look at the IBS and the history of allergies. So she has a lot of seasonal allergies. Hillary, you have a lot of issues with runny nose, sneezy nose. Yes, sneezy nose. Let's see specifically what you wrote. You wrote, where is it at? Allergic to both indoor and outdoor things, grass, hay fever, pets, dust, mold. So lots of allergies. So this tells me that your body is having a hard time processing histamine. So a low histamine diet would be a good place to start. And then working on helping to clear out your body. So there are histamine protocols and things that naturopathic doctors and possibly some functional medicine doctors can do to help get things up and running. So that your body can handle histamine better than it is right now. And high histamine in someone who's having histamine issues is going to cause inflammation and damage in the GI tract because your body is already having too much of an immune response. That causes inflammation. And so the histamine foods might very well be related to the IBS symptoms. And if you've listened to me any length of time, you also know that there's a big connection between gut health and our migraines. So this could kind of come full circle, right? The histamine foods are causing problems with the gut is causing problems with the migraines, and the histamine can also be contributing to the migraines. So that would be one place to start. Hit low histamine diet, working on clearing out the histamine pathways, and then helping to heal your gut up. That's going to be an important step. You can't just go low histamine and call it good. You have to actually work at healing the body so that you can add some of those histamine foods back in. All right, let's take a look at the family and personal history of depression and anxiety. So the fact that you have this running in your family tells us, and as well as that there being some migraines in the family as well, I believe you said. Let's double check. So yes, so your sister also has migraines as well. So there's definitely going to be a genetic component. Now, when we're looking at depression, anxiety, and migraines, the two things that really come to mind for me is actually three things because of the histamine piece. So one is MTHFR. So this is if you haven't heard of it, it's a gene that has been linked to people that have migraines when it runs in families, along with some other things, but it's also related to history of anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, things like that. Running in the family, MTHFR is found to be a higher mutation rate than in families that don't exhibit these things. So that might be one thing that's going on. Another one based on the anxiety depression piece would be MAOA. So MAOA is monoamine oxidase. It's an enzyme that is coded by the MAOA gene that helps to break down serotonin and some of our epinephrine, norepinephrine, things like that. And so all of those, if they're not broken down properly, can trigger migraines. The other thing is MAOA is also partly responsible for breaking down histamine. So there's kind of that full circle piece, right? So there's likely an MAOA component to it. There can also be what's known as COMT, C-O-M-T, the COMT gene. So that one also helps to break down histamine and also helps to break down those neurotransmitters as well. It also plays a role in how our body breaks down estrogen. So you didn't notice that there was any hormonal component. There still could be, and I always say if you're a female and you have migraines, there's absolutely a hormonal component. We might just not see that because if things are out of balance enough, you're not going to see any cyclical nature because you don't feel good enough to notice when you're not in pain, right? So there's likely those 3 genes at play, or a combination of those 3 genes. And so there are things that you can do to help support them and help them function better. And then the last thing that you had mentioned was that there were some issues with alcohol as far as triggering migraines. Get down here to the bottom, red wine specifically, and anything with MSG. So anytime I know, so MSG is a big trigger for a lot of people, it's true. But anytime I hear MSG, then I always think of what's going on with your glutamate GABA receptor. So if you've tried, Topamax and it's worked, but it maybe makes you feel funny, or, side effects were too strong, then that's going to be a glutamate GABA issue. And so working to help support the balance. So GABA goes into glutamate, glutamate turns into GABA. And so if there's if it's stuck on, the glutamate side, anything with glutamate, including high glutamate foods, which you can Google a list, that can actually kind of push everything over on the glutamate side and be, causing anxiety and causing the migraines as well. So there's ways that we can also balance that using some nutritional things, Gaba Support. Be very, very careful about actually starting a GABA supplement, because if your body already wants to turn it into glutamate, supplementing with GABA can cause it to go into glutamate and then get stuck there. We need to help it go back the other way. So, so be very careful with that, and maybe don't try that unless you talk to your doctor first for that reason. So let's see. And then the last thing that could potentially be at play, especially since you specifically noticed that red wine plays a role in your migraines, is sulfur. So I don't know if you have any other issues with high sulfur foods like broccoli or onion, garlic. If any of those make you not feel very good, or maybe seem to give you a headache when you eat them, then you've got issues processing sulfur as well. And so that can also, the sulfur pathway plays a role into the MTHFR and how you're able to respond to treatment there too. So it's kind of throwing a little wrench in the works. So if that is something that's problematic, then you're going to need to have the sulfur pathway addressed first, then some of the genetics, and then the histamine stuff. So it can be kind of tricky maneuvering all the pieces, but those are going to be the main problems that I'm hearing from the information that you provided. So I'll just kind of recap. The IBS symptoms, so working on gut healing, likely contributed to by the histamine foods that are probably playing a role. There also might be some actual food triggers or food sensitivities as well that maybe you just haven't been able to uncover, because if, histamine in general is causing a problem for you, that's going to be mimicking or covering up any other symptoms from other foods you might be eating. So trying a low histamine diet might be a good place to start. The MAOA, COMT, and MTHFR genes are likely at play, and how your body is processing glutamate and GABA, as well as possibly a sulfur sensitivity in there as well. So hopefully you find that helpful, Hillary. And for the rest of you who might be watching this, what I always like to make sure I wrap up these videos with is the fact that we don't want to just eliminate foods, or we don't just want to find those triggers and get rid of them and call it good. Because as you probably know through what you've done already, if you just do that, then pretty soon in a month or two, you start having the symptoms coming right on back. And it's because when we don't actually work on healing the body up, then we're shifting things away from the current problem, but then that's probably shifting it towards something else that's going to become imbalanced as well. So yes, evaluate and figure out what's going on. Eliminate those things in the short term while you're healing. But the third and most important part is the alleviation, or addressing those underlying imbalances. So then we can work backwards and get things back into the diet so that you can enjoy the red wine, or you can enjoy the higher histamine foods. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. If you want more information about this individual type of approach to migraine treatment, I invite you to watch my free training. It's linked in the comments below. And if you're interested in having your own whole body migraine assessment done, I've also linked that in the comments below too, and you can sign up for your own time.